218th Contact. Saturday, May 30th, 1987, 12:02 a.m. Billy says, "Nice that you have come, my friend, because I have a great need to leave the globe somewhat. Somehow everything here depresses me, and I feel that the world is crushing me and that I am completely robbed of my freedom. If I may ask you, take me into your ship and swim with me for 2 or 3 hours somewhat out into free space where I can see the stars and the galaxies in the expanse of the universe. That will certainly help me and bring inner peace, the feeling of freedom, quiet and calm back to me again." Quetzal says, "As a matter of fact, your appearance terrifies me. But I also know why you are so downcast and are so very depressed, because I watched everything as you were so viciously tormented and insulted by your wife. On one hand, to me, it is all completely incomprehensible and strange how your wife carries on and revolts against you in such a way, insults and torments you, and on the other hand I would never have thought that she could be so scurrilous and degenerate. But actually I have never looked deeper into this matter, nor have any of us, because we do not want to violate your private sphere. But today this happened unexpectedly and inadvertently, because I wanted to seek you out on a private basis, and because of that I paused over the center house in order to see if you are well enough to have a conversation with me in regard to a certain matter. Now after everything that I have seen and heard, I must completely revise my opinion in regard to your wife, which indeed all those others of us must also do who I self-evidently must orientate about the truth and reality. For my part, I still want to make the comment about this, that your wife has carried on like the Fury, the mythological, raving, furious, and terror-disseminating Roman goddess of vengeance, and that is absolutely unworthy of a human kind of female. And with her, that it actually concerns a core group member, makes everything still very much worse, more incomprehensible and more unworthy. Moreover, she herself in particular should already have long since been taught something better, and should have learned much, since she indeed stands directly at the source of the teachings and the knowledge, and she knows about the actual contacts with us. Moreover, in this regard, she herself has been permitted to witness many events, and so forth. Consequently, she should long ago have turned to a better, more reasonable and more human way of behavior. Naturally we knew, and indeed already many years before the contacts were taken up with you in the 40s, that she, in view of her upbringing, her demeanor and thinking, as well as in regard to her behavior, and so forth, would bring you much tribulation, suffering and pain, because that would be required for your development and the unfolding of your energy for the fulfillment of your mission. Yet we actually did not know that everything would be so very bad, as I now myself, as a silent observer, had to witness. For my part, I do not understand how you cope with all that and have never complained, and that you continue to stay with your wife and you do not part from her. You would have really had every ground for that with a clear conscience and with justification." Billy says, "You are a very dear friend to me, Quetzal. You know many things about me, yet you also do not know many things about me, as is precisely now also the case with the relationship about which you have spoken. On one hand, I always give every human another chance to change to the better, to make something good again, or to correct a mistake, until that also actually then has happened, or until I finally must acknowledge that every chance will be senselessly, scornfully, malevolently, wantonly or uncomprehendingly wasted. But many months or many years and even decades can pass until this point in time, and I only give up if I can see no more hope and no more possibility that a goal would indeed still be obtainable. But I have never yet reached such a state of giving up, because in this regard my patience is very extensive." Quetzal says, "We all know that. And your patience in association with your endurance is indeed also the decisive factor through which you are able to carry out your mission." Billy says, "That may be, yet I still actually wanted to say something more. See, in regards to my wife, I affirmed that I will stand by her in good as well as bad times. That may be only an unconsidered and empty phrase for many humans in the case of their marriage or other occasions, not, however, for me, because I actually contemplated these words and this promise very precisely before it had progressed such that I could stand by them with a clear conscience. My thoughts in this regard already began with Sfath, and it was consequently already clear to me as a boy what these words and this promise actually signify in their sense and what value they have hidden within them. Therefore the recognition as well as the conviction and the decision matured in me that, during my entire life, come what may, I would never break my word or promise. What is more, I am able to still remember that this resolution arose in me sometime in the month of April or May after my 7th birthday. Anyway, the dandelions, the lady's smock, as well as many other flowers, were blooming in the meadows. Everything was also blooming in the gardens. Also the hawthorn bushes and various bushes of all kinds were in glorious full bloom, as well as the cherry trees, pear trees and apple trees. The sun shone splendidly warm from a cloudless azure blue sky, and the fabulous twittering of birds was all around. Therefore I then reached the decision that I will never break my word or promise. And I also hold to that in relation to my wife as well as in relation to every other human. That will also remain that way, and indeed even if everything gets even worse with my cannibaling. Translator's note: Billy has generously shared with us many of his older poems in his 2004 book, 61 Years of Poems, Sayings, Aphorisms. From there we learn, from many touching love poems written for his beloved Calliope, that cannibalin was one of Billy's affectionate nicknames for his wife, along with cannibaling kind, Agapula, and Agapamo. I can, in regard to her, as well as in regard to every other human, only then step back from my word and promise if she herself breaks her word and promise and goes her own way without me. On my part I can therefore never break a word or promise that I have given, nor indeed if there are bad consequences for me. Quetzal says, I did not know that, my friend, yet I find that you should at least defend yourself. It could actually have come out very badly, since your wife had, with great strength, flung the knives and forks in your face over the kitchen table. You could have been killed by the kilogram weight of the crystal ashtray which she hurled right across the whole kitchen at your head. I will heal your wounds and swelling when we are in my flying device. But then, let us now go. Later, when you feel better again, we can catch up on that about which I wanted to talk to you. First I want to now fulfill your long-held wish for you. Billy says, thank you for your caring. I can well use it, because my skull thunders and rumbles with 1,000 imps. But which wish do you mean, because I have several of them that surely will, however, never be fulfilled? Quetzal says, I can feel for you regarding your headache, but you will soon be free of it. I am thinking in regard to your wish, being that you would like to plunge into the deep sea and observe the deep sea animals. Billy says, we can do that today. Quetzal says, that is of correctness. Let us go now. Billy says, is that possible then with your beam ship, and where will we dive into the deep sea? Quetzal says, all of our flying devices are suited for diving processes, whereby, due to our pressure protection screens, there are no limits set for the depth. We will dive into the depths of the Atlantic as well as the Pacific. Billy says, so, I am ready. On arrival in Quetzal's beam ship, he treats the various scratches as well as the wounds and the swelling on my head. Within minutes everything is healed, and also the buzzing and the hammering in my skull, as well as the headaches, are gone. Then we zoom out into the world's free space, where we spend around 50 minutes, whereby I feel better and better and freer, and I can also rid myself of my depression. Meanwhile, practically nothing is said, because I am occupied with my thoughts, which Quetzal quite obviously does.